Hey guys, welcome back. This is E from E&M Gaming, and today we're gonna finish our horror compilation of 2019 animations. I know I said that backwards, but I said it backwards in every video, so screw it. So we're starting off True Scary Safari Tour Story. We got about 11 minutes left of this, so we should be able to finish it nicely. All right, without further ado, let's get into it.
It was a beautiful day in August. My family and I had just finished packing for our trip. We were bored and hadn't planned to do anything because our trip was in a couple of days. So we all decided to go to the Safari Zoo place because it was only an hour drive and a great way to kill time.
I thought they were like going to Africa or
When
some
we
shit.
got there and we noticed that there were a bunch of people at the zoo.
Well, obviously.
My family could get impatient of this, so we asked the receptionist if there was anything we could do that wasn't too busy. Lucky for us, there were private tours. They were a bit expensive, but the lady assured us that the tour guides were highly educated and great at their job. We were given animal food and introduced to our private tour guide. When we first saw our tour guide, we noticed he was a little off. He had a weird
You look like a
lisp,
damn rooster.
didn't speak very much English, and had a really bad lazy eye.
Lazy eyes.
When my dad first tried to greet him, he ignored my dad and gestured us to one of the safari minivans. We were a little taken aback,
We're
but
not
didn't
going to
think
damn
anything
minivan. I'm
of
doing
it.
like one of those big old cart things
Once
that
we
they
got into the
around.
van, we noticed that there was a bad smell and a bunch of animal food on the floor.
Ugh.
He started driving before we could get our seatbelts on. We first passed by lions and hyenas. It was all really cool. There were also a bunch of vans and tour buses behind and in front of us that were taking all the attention of the animals. Out of the blue, the tour guide turned onto a trail that no other buses or vans were going on. My dad got a little suspicious and asked the tour guide where we were going. The tour guide replied with elephants, shortly because once again he didn't know English very well.
Elephants.
Well, we really wanted to see the elephants at that time, so we all got excited.
Why specifically the elephants?
After a good 10 minutes of driving, we noticed that we had seen no animals and no other tour guides, just a never-ending forest. My mom, who has paranoia, was getting worried and repeatedly asked the tour guide where he was going. But then, he never answered. All of a sudden, he stopped the car and said he had to get something from the back of his car.
You already know he lying.
My dad was getting red flags and watched him from the rearview mirror. And then, my dad hopped into the driver's seat, locked all the doors immediately, and pressed the accelerator to the floor.
That's a break.
With a fearful face that I've never seen before like that.
Don't act like I didn't see that.
We were all slammed into the backs of our seats. "What's going on?" my mom yelled. "I saw him holding an axe," my dad yelled back. We made it back to the safari and to the receptionist.
Why is that so tall?
We explained the whole situation and she called the police. They had a long search and finally he got caught after a few hours. We got a full refund and later found out that our tour guide didn't even work at the safari but used a fake ID. And had history linked with murder, kidnapping, and other crimes we won't mention. We also found out the reason that the car smelled so bad was because the tour guide admitted to killing multiple safari animals and taking them home. To this day, I still wonder what would have happened if my dad didn't look in the rearview mirror when the tour guide stopped the car.
Why do you ask that? You already know what was gonna happen. You're gonna die. Oh crap, we gotta add. I can't show it. I might have to close out of it. Alright, sorry about that. I got YouTube Premium on this account. I got my other account. So anyways, back into it. We got the I went in the wrong ride and almost got killed. How do you go into the wrong ride? I don't get that.
This is not about my story, but someone from my church. and he wanted to share his experience with anyone
Why
else.
doesn't he tell it?
He's a 32-year-old man, and his pseudonym is Mark. He's a fairly big guy, and this situation took place when he was on his way home from work.
Okay.
He said that he had lost his phone 1 week before this whole situation happened, so he couldn't call and get any help during this story. It was quite late, around 11 p.m. He had finished work and was walking to a taxi stop location, and when he got there, a few people were standing around waiting as well. After about 2 minutes, he noticed that there was a minivan approaching. Usually, minivans are cheaper than taxis, and he felt tired that day, so he decided to take the minivan. He sat on a seat, and there was a young boy seated in the passenger side next to the driver, who was collecting the fare. And then, 2 other boys who looked like teenagers also boarded the minivan and sat in the seats in front of him.
Why is his hair like that?
Once the minivan took off, after
I've
about
never heard of
5
a
minutes,
taxi minivan.
the boy asked if they would like to drink some Coke. The
No.
boys accepted and started drinking. And they also gave it to Mark. Mark was also feeling thirsty, so he took it, but only a sip. Not much later, he started feeling drowsy. Just before he about laid his head on the seat beside him, he noticed that those 2 boys were already knocked out. After he laid his head down, he heard noises coming from the back seats. 2 people were talking in a different language. The car was passing a big signboard that showed Crest Chicken Farm, and then he finally passed out. When he got up, he found himself inside a big shed-like barn, and there were some
that's why I don't
tools on
really
a big
drink
table.
unless I know you know you.
He was on the floor, and the other 2 teenage boys were laying next to him.
I'm a good, healthy man.
He still felt a bit drowsy, but he managed to get himself up as he was looking for an escape. He saw that the 2 boys were still passed out, so he tried waking them, but they wouldn't budge.
Slap him.
As Mark was kind of a big man, he tried to see if he could carry one of them, but it was hard to do because even Mark was having a hard time to stand properly.
You'll be fine.
And then he heard voices. He took a peek from the door, and 3 people were walking toward the big shed, coming from a house on the hill, which was quite close to the shed.
Then you better go.
Mark panicked and tried to look for another exit. He was looking around the place, and he found one at the end of the shed, luckily. He approached quietly and escaped as fast as he could. At this point, his vision was all blurry, but he managed to find a fence door and unlocked it. He heard the people shouting, but he ignored. He just kept on running. When he finally reached his house, it was early morning, around 5 a.m. His wife was up all night waiting for him and ran out the front door as soon as she saw him. He collapsed and slept for almost the whole day. When he woke up and finally got a chance to explain to his wife what had transpired that night, he remembered about the other 2 boys who were still there. Then he contacted the police immediately. He told the police about the road signs and a big billboard for Crest Chicken Farm and other things that he could remember. About 2 weeks after, there was a police report about how they found 2 teenage boys' bodies in a lake, and advised that when they examined the bodies, all their organs were missing.
Oh, shit.
Mark just stood in fear. And as the event was too traumatic for him, Mark had to quit a job for a while.
True horror ghost tour story. This should be our last one. Yep, last one.
When I was a kid, I was really into paranormal things, such as ghosts and spirits. So I always got really excited for Halloween. On one Halloween, my parents took me and my brother to a ghost tour in the city.
I hate that little kid.
During the tour, we would visit real haunted houses, which were said to have some really violent ghosts. I couldn't be more excited. We arrived at the location for the tour meetup, an empty parking lot, but we were a bit early and nobody else had arrived yet. It was a chilly October night, so my parents decided that we should find a building to wait in until more people arrive. We walked over to the building that the parking lot was meant for, an old hotel, and entered the vestibule.
A lot smaller than it should have been. That didn't look like
we
a hotel.
tried to fully enter the building, but we found that the doors leading to the lobby inside were locked. After a few minutes of standing around, I started to feel strange. A nauseous feeling had swept my stomach. Goosebumps ran up and down my
Those are not
arms, and a
goosebumps.
piercing feeling
You
of
have some
being
kind of
watched was
fucking
stabbing,
pimple problem.
almost burning my back. Looking around, it was obvious that me and my family were the only ones inside the vestibule. The lobby of the
Well, why
building
not
was
just chill
also
in there? Go
devoid
home.
of people. Once we saw people enter the parking lot, we left, and I felt better. And after that, I was shocked to see the first place we stopped on the tour was the building my family had been waiting in. Now, this building we won't enter, because the spirit inside here is more violent than the others will encounter.
I was like some hip dude
The
trying
guide
to tour
stated.
them this.
In here, we have the Shadow Man. He doesn't terrorize the whole building, just the area that you enter through. He's been known to slap and scratch people coming inside.
Look at this dude on the
A
right.
few pictures were passed around.
Baloney.
All of a sudden, I don't know how and why, but I recognized that an inky black figure stood against the door's windows. Its eyes were glowing white, and it had long fingers and pointed nails.
Nah, no you didn't.
It was freaky to think that I might have been targeted by the Shadow Man, but I didn't think much of it until after
Why
the
would they
tour when
target a
my
little girl
family
like
went
you?
back home.
You're useless.
I started to complain to my mom that my back was itching and burning, so she grabbed some ointment and told me she would look at it.
Who has
We
ointment
thought
in the
it was
car?
just a bug bite. We had been walking around outside at night after all. When she lifted my shirt, she asked when I had scratched my back. I told her I hadn't. She took a picture on her phone
Don't
and
just
showed it
flash
to me.
my face.
I was met with a long
Ew, why
red
is it- why
scratch
is it all
leading
dots
from my
around it? What the
shoulder
hell?
to the middle of
Also,
my
even
back.
wouldn't you word scratch your back? You
The
would
skin on my
not do
back
that.
was a
Those
shade
were
of
like
red,
razor babies.
like a rash. Me and all of my family couldn't say anything, but just turned back straight to our house. The Shadow Man had got me.
You're not gonna go to the doctor? Whatever. Alright, guys. That was the end of the video. It's pretty good. That's a good animation. Some of them were kind of stupid, like the fucking Instagram one. That was probably the dumbest out of all of them. But if you'd like to see me do another horror compilation, we have the one of January, or we could do one of 2018 and one before. Because the ones I've seen, the older ones are better, but I don't really know. So yeah, we just hit 100 subscribers, so wait for a special on that. Yeah, our channel's been growing strong, crazy recently. I can't talk right. I kind of just woke up, and I was just like, I gotta go ahead and get a video before I have to go to work. But yeah, so sorry about that. That was my thing doing. Okay. But anyways, smash like, comment, subscribe, yada yada yada, all that stuff, and I'll see you on the next video. So yeah. Okay, I hate this.